tātou katoa e te whānau kua whakarau i ka mai I runga I te karanga papatoa nuku rangi nui me rau e tini mokopuna tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you everybody. Thank you. Thank you for coming along. Thank you. I want to reiterate my thanks to Trust Tairāwhiti and to our council for supporting this to happen. Worst thing you can ever do is give me money, because I will upscale. This was originally a small marae about climate, and then they offered me money. I was like, let's get Mike Joy in, let's get James Renwick, climate commissioner, yeah, let's get everybody in, and so now we're having COP26 here in Kaiti. So thank you very much for all of our cousin Simon and Mike and Hineka and all of our presenters for coming in today, and also I'm really looking forward to one of our last, actually a couple of our final panels today from our council, Trust Tairāwhiti and MPI, to respond to some of the things that we've heard today. But also I just want to reiterate that we can't wait for anybody to come and save us. There's a lot that we can do as a community, as hapu, at a hapu level, at a marae level, at a whānau level even, to be able to drive this change. But also to continue to hold our decision makers accountable and to work together, like Papa Mike. I was just called you Papa Mike before. Like Mike said, you know, mahi tahi, for us to all work together so that everybody is working in their capacity to around this issue it's an existential issue. I mean, if we're not dealing to this, there will be nowhere for us to stand for any other issues. There really isn't anything more vital for us to be getting over ourselves and working together on. And so thank you everybody for coming along to that. I just, you know, a couple of the issues that were raised before that I just want to kind of weave together. And in particular, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a monitoring fan. I saw Ian Dudu floating around out there, and kei te mihi rawatu ki aia. He's led, along with Murray, our community monitoring around our freshwater and coastal systems for a couple of decades now. And I just think that is exactly the kind of work that needs to be promoted and supported, and it also needs to be embedded within our frameworks, our maramataka, our mātauranga Māori, and make the most of these knowledge systems to be able to be agile and respond to, let taiao tell us what it needs, let the environment tell us what it needs, open our ears and our eyes to the messages that it's telling us, and be able to adapt and respond to those issues. There's a long-standing history of science that comes out of the soil that we're standing on right now. We would be foolish to dislocate ourselves from that. There's a long-standing history of decision-making and tradition of decision-making that is informed by and defined by the observations around us as well. And so those decisions, those kind of decision-making platforms, those kinds of power structures, those can also be implemented right now as well. And in fact, in 2016, there was a really important report that was issued about our decision-making structures and our power structures, and it was called Matike Mai Aotearoa. It came off the back of a couple of 250, I think, meetings around the country with Māori communities. And it talked about what justice would truly look like in Aotearoa today if we were able to get our decision-making and power structures right. It was handed over to the government in 2016, and they were given 4 years, so this is the year, 2020, for them to be able to respond to that. But I don't think we have to wait for them to respond to that. We can respond to that now too. We can have a look at Matike Mai Aotearoa and some of the models that they put forward for decision-making that come out of this earth, that is a part of the long-standing history of this country, and we can talk about what that might look like at a local level. particularly good time to be doing that now while council are engaging with communities around what good governance looks like for our spatial plan and setting our objectives for the next 50 years or so ahead. That is an opportunity for us to be able to embed some of the fantastic aspirations that have been laid before us this morning about how we can be more connected to, for instance, the water up in Wharekahika. How can we make sure that the voice of that water that's collected by the community that lives around and depends on that water comes through in the policies that will define the well-being of that water? These are the kinds of things that we can do, and that's outlaid in this Matika Mai Aotearoa report. So, you know, we're just a couple of weeks away from Waitangi Day. We've just come off the back of, don't get me started, 250 years of since the arrival of James Cook. But now is really all of those things together really create a fantastic space for us to be talking about how do we want to be making decisions and managing our power structures moving into the future so that we can shape better economies. There is, and I would be remiss to say, a long history of civil disobedience and resistance that comes out of this soil. And so discussions about how we forge change really need to start with how have we always forged change as tangata whenua here as well. How have we held the line of resistance? How have we implemented our matauranga? How have we created governance and decision-making structures all the way over the last however many eons up until now? And then what do we make of that when we have to make these decisions going into the future? A big part of that also, I just want to, and this is going to seg a little bit into our koho kai, which our chef for today, Raniera, was going to come in and give a bit of a kōrero about this, but he's busy cooking the kai, doing the do. So he's asked me to fill in a little bit for him. But, you know, a big part of that also is, you know, we need to think about change. And when we talk about probably moving to a more plant-based diet, which doesn't mean a complete plant-based diet, we don't know what it means yet. We need to figure out what that means. But it may mean just making sure that probably will mean that making sure that our food systems operate within the limits of our local ecologies. It will probably mean more localised economies and more localised food systems, and our ability and our right to carry on the kai legacy of our ancestors as well and continue with our subsistence traditions, our ability to be able to gather food from our coastlines and fish off our coastlines and gather kai from our ngahere and also farm, which means protecting the knowledge systems around that as well as the systems, the ecological systems themselves. So, so if we look actually back to our ancestral times, we had a heavily plant-based diet already back then, and the protein that we gathered within the limits of our local ecologies as well. And so these are all kinds of discussions for us to talk about. Is it actually a great big change, or are we actually just returning back to how things used to be anyway before? So it's more of a return. In many spaces it's more of a returning rather than a complete change into something new. The plant-based Māori, Raniera, Rewiri, has been hugely influential and inspirational, particularly for our younger generation around the country as well. He has embarked upon his own journey of creating plant-based kai and also looking at the whakapapa of kai. So when we talk about food security, and food security was mentioned this morning, but also there's a way for us to consider that in a space of sovereignty. So food sovereignty asks us to consider also the cultural aspect of the food, the way in which it brings us together, the rights-based aspects of those food systems as well. And so food sovereignty kind of lies at the heart of Raniera's discussion. He looks at how it not just impacts upon our physical health, but also impacts upon the health of our whenua and our waterways. And so I'm really thankful that he was willing to come and kōrero through his kai, so our pukus can listen to him, and yeah, just appreciate the support that he's had and the support that we've had to bring him in as well. Hopefully he will have some time to talk to us a little bit more about his work, but if you look him up on Facebook, he's got some fantastic podcasts about the links between well-being for our whenua, for our bodies, and plant-based kai, and how tricky you can be with plant-based kai to actually have your roro think that you are eating meat, if that's your buzz. So yeah, without any further ado, I'll have we can break for lunch. Again, a huge mihi. Thank you very much to all of our speakers of the morning, and looking forward to the speeches of the afternoon. Have a look at Matike Mai Aotearoa, the report. You can get it down online. It's some fantastic discussions, models and suggestions for a future that I think will sort a lot of the issues that we've talked about today. So, kia ora mai tātou katoa.